Bitcoin is right now breaking up, and we're going to talk about a very interesting play which I think will happen, which basically brings us up first before then bringing us down, looking at liquidity, looking at, of course, the CME gap, which is opened from a couple of weeks ago and looks like we're going to fill it soon. We're going to briefly mention oil, but then also this divergence, and then finally look at what I think will happen to Bitcoin over the next couple of months. Interesting video planned, straight into it. Bitcoin on the 4 hourly, we can see here breaking upwards. Of course, we have, if you zoom out a bit previously, and I mentioned this a few times already, we have been supported by this major support line here. Then we broke down right here, and now basically being going sideways around about this support and resistance box, which we now actually broke upwards from, and looks like we're being supported from here. So looks bullish in my opinion. The price, or the point that I'm looking to, is the local high. The local high here is this high at around about $79,500. I want to be seeing Bitcoin breaking above that level for us to be going further up. Now, I always like to start in the smaller time frame, and let's zoom out onto the larger time frame. So let's go on to daily. Bitcoin here on the daily, of course, is forming a bear flag pattern. We had this previous bear flag pattern here, which broke down. Now in the new bear flag pattern, which will also eventually break down for sure. And until that happens, well, I think we could actually be going a bit higher. And there's two price targets here on the upside. First of all, the previous low. The previous low here of the previous bear flag pattern was at around about $81,000, which I think, you know what, why not? We could hit that level. Once we go above that, the next level to look out for is the previous range low. So we can see here we've been trading in this range, and we're not looking at the minimum level. We're now looking at what price we've been trading at more often, more frequently, which is this dashed yellow line, which is at around about $85,000. I personally do not think that will happen, but again, you never know with Bitcoin, you know. I think it's likely that we're going to hit $81,000, the previous low. I don't necessarily think 85, like I said, but it could happen. It's a clear resistance here. It has acted as resistance many times here. It has acted as resistance here, and of course right here, and we started forming the bear flag pattern. And another thing to note is, you might be asking, why are we not breaking down? I mean, we clearly add resistance here on the top side. Well, the bear flag pattern, it keeps on going, right? This white resistance line is upward sloping, which means if I follow it, as long as we keep retesting it, we will go higher and higher. As the days pass, we will just stay on the top side here. I do not think we're gonna break above it and form a support from the top side. But as long as we stay below it, even as the days pass, the resistance is upward sloping. So we can eventually go towards this $81,000 region, in my opinion, before then eventually breaking down, of course, towards 71,000, the bottom of the bear flag pattern. Now, we looked at the daily. Let's now look actually at the monthly, because I want to show something which I mentioned a few times, and it's basically that a bear market usually lasts 364 days. I mean, look at this. The first one here, the second market, and these orange lines are the halving events, just for you guys to know. These separate the different cycles. So we have here the first cycle, second cycle, this is the first cycle, second, third, and now of course the fourth cycle, which we're in right now. One sec. And we can see that always from the top to the bottom, it's been approximately 12 months, 365 days. Same thing the last time. And then the second cycle, it was actually almost 400 days. But that basically makes me believe that we're not at the bottom yet. We're going to go a bit further. We have until about October to reach the bottom. And next thing to talk about is the liquidity heat map. Look, there we have a lot of liquidity here, up to around 80,000, of course, and all the way up to like 81,000. And this also supports the idea, in my opinion, that we are going to touch this $81,000 region, which is the previous low, before then going down, as supported by the liquidity heat map. These areas is where most traders get liquidated on their longs and shorts. In this case, of course, people who are shorting will get liquidated at these higher prices, and usually Bitcoin follows these prices. Another reason why I think we're going to go a bit higher, towards 81, maybe even 84, 85, like we just mentioned, is the CME gaps. The CME gaps here are formed over the weekend between the Friday close and the Monday open. And we have an open CME gap, which was formed on the 30th of January, 2nd of February, basically over that weekend. And the gap is quite a big gap. Bitcoin dropped significantly over that weekend. And on Friday, it was all the way at $84,000, which is the target for the CME gap. We can see we already entered the CME region, and we're going to most likely fill it because 95% of the time they do get filled. So we can either fill it completely or we go to 81,000. If I think, you know what, it could get filled before eventually going down. And when do I think we go down? Actually, very soon. Because if we look here at Bitcoin on the weekly, look at these red lines, okay? The red lines is the 4th of May. And always on the 4th of May, Bitcoin has been going down in a bear market. And the 4th of May is literally in 2 days. So I could imagine that we are now going to fill that CME gap over the weekend. And then come Monday, come the 4th of May, correct to the downside. You can see here, 2 cycles ago, we went down on the 4th of May. Last cycle, we went down. And this cycle, of course, it's in 2 days' time. And we mentioned the CME gap. Now let's quickly talk about oil. Oil is actually has a drop of 5% in the hours after Iran sent a new proposal to the US via Pakistan's mediators. And the markets are now pricing this, because I also heard today that apparently the war is over. I mean, the US and Trump, they want the war to be over, of course, and everyone wants the war to be over, and that would mean lower oil prices. And we can see right now, if you look at oil from the top to the bottom here, already 10% down. Right now we're going a bit higher, like 8% down, but pretty much a 10% correction for the price of oil already. And as the war de-escalates, the price of oil will go further down, of course. If we look at Bitcoin here on the daily and look at the RSI, the relative strength index, we can see a bearish divergence. The RSI is downward sloping. We have less buying power, less strength in the market in terms of the bulls, and the price is still going up. And usually we know that the price follows the direction of the RSI, which is eventually down, also coinciding with the idea that eventually, very, very soon, I mean, look, we're at the top side of the resistance, we are going to break down, and mark my words, in a few days time, I'm gonna make a video and I'm gonna say, look guys, we're going down to 70,000. It's as simple as that. And next thing to talk about is that this is what I think will happen to Bitcoin over the next couple of months. So last cycle, and we always look at the previous cycles, we had the top, which we obviously had, and right now we are in this region. We went down, we're going up again in our second bear flag, and then have one more leg down, which is always the case here. We have another leg down, accumulate here. This is where I personally would buy Bitcoin, which, like I previously mentioned, usually happens 1 year, 12 months, yes, 1 year after the top, which will bring us to approximately September, October. So if you wait, this will happen around September, October, in my opinion, around $50,000. That's a good time to accumulate some Bitcoin in order to potentially double your money. Not financial advice, but looking at history, that has happened. Last thing for this video is, again, the same thing, kind of to show you guys that we're following the last cycle. We're going down, we have another push up, which is kind of a trap, and everyone always mentions this is a trap, right? It does very well if I mention it in titles, and it is usually a trap. People get excited, the fear and greed index goes back towards greed. People get greedy, they think this was the bottom of the bear market. I'm seeing a lot of people on Twitter posting that this is the bottom of the bear market, and I can't believe it that they think this is the bottom right here, because just by drawing a few nice lines, which they often do, they say, okay, this is the bottom, look, we have support here. But in my opinion, we have to look at history always, and history tells us that it takes approximately 12 months for the bottom to be reached, which is nowhere near. It's approximately October. So also following last cycle, we usually have a trap along the way down, and then one more leg down, some sideways movement, and then eventually slowly going back up, of course. And yeah, that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, keep buying Bitcoin along the way, dollar cost averaging, of course. and you'll eventually make a lot of money. And with that being said, smash the like button. See you tomorrow.